Hi everyone. So I just came back from a store championship held on the 14th of February. Instead of going out with my girlfriend like most normal people would on Valentine's Day, I decided to go on a date with her, Kate. And she gave me a very nice Valentine's Day present, one which I couldn't have asked for more. There we go. This is for you guys. Thank you all you viewers for making this possible. Ever since creating this YouTube channel and receiving all the positive comments both from people in real life and all you online viewers, my interest in Netrunner has only been growing, and it's because of this that I'm actually encouraged to play more Netrunner Octagon, and as a direct result I'm able to play well, and Kate basically won me the games that I needed to win in order to get first place in this tournament, which had about 30 something people. It wasn't the hardest tournament because there were a couple of store championships before this, so all the really good players all have their buys for the regionals already, so that opens up the field and I was able to capitalize off that. So, without further ado, let's go into explaining my Kate deck. Well, it would be a misnomer to call it my Kate deck because it's essentially Prepaid Kalimsha's Prepaid Kate deck. I'm sure many of you have seen it online. It is really, really effective, and I dare say it is the best runner deck in today's metagame. And upon further analysis, I realized it is very beautiful. Mathematically, it is constructed so beautifully. Look at this left column here. Everything you need for this deck is in multiples of 5s. It's a very regular deck, and this is why it's so consistent. You have 5 cards for recursion, Scavenge Simoting Levi. You have 5 cards for on-the-run tutoring, which is a very important part of Shaper, SMC and Clone Chip. 5 cards for card draw. 5 cards for improving your access quality. And because economy is so important in today's metagame, you double that number. So you have 10 cards of burst economy, and then another 3 cards to back that up, to supplement that with prepaid voice pads to improve the quality of your 10 burst economy cards. And Kate's ability obviously synergizes with all of this. So it's actually a very beautiful deck in construction. You don't really see it when you just read the deck list off the top, but when you group cards into their utility like this, you realize how regular it is. And this is one very important reason why it does so well, because you draw when you draw, you receive roughly the same percentage of cards. So for every, say, 6 or 7 cards I draw, if I see 1 recursion, 1 form of tutoring, 1 card draw, 2 economy cards, and 1 multi-access, that's a very good hand. So yeah, all the essentials that you need in one package. This is why this is the main backbone of my deck. The main backbone of Kalimsha's deck for that matter, and why it performs so well. So I don't need to explain more about this, just try it for yourself, it really is that effective. Well, I'm here to talk about the rest of these cards. Okay, Astrolabe, there's nothing much to say, it's the best Shaper console. Plus Treat is not in the latest iteration of Kalimsha's deck. I included it solely because I'm expecting a lot of Wayland in my local meta, and turns out I was right. I'll show you the matchup tables later, but out of the 8 games I played, 6 of them were against Waylands. This card, very important. And if you ask me, having played, realized that you played so many Waylands today, if I knew I was going to play that many Waylands, would I have played 2 plus creeps instead? My answer would have been probably not. Because think of it this way, by the time the corp manages to draw the C double scotch combo, chances are you have already drawn through your entire deck. You should have found your plus crit by then. So I don't think there's a need for more than 1 plus crit. Okay, the main difference between my Prepaid Kate deck and Kalimsha's deck is with these 5 cards, the multi-access cards. Firstly, the R&D digging. His deck uses 2 indexings and 2 Maker's Eye. I swapped the 2 indexings for 1 R&D interface so I could bring my deck down to the size of 45, and I think that was the right call. With regards to Mikasai versus indexing, through playtesting with one of my friends, I realized that indexing is a subpar card past the first few turns. Because against most decks, you will require at least 5 credits to get through R&D. So you really don't want to run there multiple times. And more importantly, you really don't have the time to set up an indexing. Because you need 2 clicks, one to make a run, and one to make the second run to fetch all the agendas. And that means you need double the number of dog tokens and double the number of resources to get through that server. It takes so much effort to set up an indexing run that it's generally not worth it. And the 2 cost of Makerside doesn't really matter when you have your prepaid setup. So I think shaving the indexing was the right call, especially against all the Wayland Titan Transnationals. With Atlas's squad, indexing is useless. And I didn't have to worry about Jackson Howard's on the table. R&D interface was huge. I think including 1 copy of it in a Prepaid Kate deck is the right call against Glacier archetypes. As I said, you really don't want to be multi-digging with indexing, and R&D interface allows you to make equitable R&D runs even if you don't manage to find your Maker's Eye, or if you ran out of same old things for Maker's Eye recursion. The last thing you want to be doing is to dig through your entire deck just to find a Maker's Eye so you can make an R&D run. That is bad. Instead, what you should be doing is making normal R&D runs and seeing 2 cards every time. That is worth it against not just daily business Astrobiotics, but against basically Glacier decks. This was what won me one of my non-Wayland matchups. It was a HB semi-Glacier matchup. I was running low on resources, but being able to see 2 cards every turn, every run, allowed me to seal the game. Same thing with Wayland actually. They tax my dog tokens so much, so every single time I use my dog tokens, I want to see at least 2 cards. R&D interface allows that. You won't get to play every game, but in games where R&D interface matters, generally you will find it and you will pull it out. Hence, it's a singleton. It's a very good card. Moving on to the questionable cards of my deck. As you are familiar with, Kalimsha's Prepaid Kate deck runs 2 Legworks and 1 Utopia Shard. I swapped out 1 copy of Legwork and 1 copy of Utopia Shard for the Imp, which cost 3 influence. Was it the right choice? I do not know. Honestly, I really do not know. My reasoning is that Legwork is only semi-effective against most decks that are not Astrobiotics. Because in most decks, agendas don't tend to clump up in hand. They usually get purged very quickly, either through Jackson Howard, or, if they are Glacier, they'll just pop into the remote instead of leaving it vulnerable in HQ. So Legwork is not very effective against most decks. If I'm expecting out of Wayland, I want to play Imp, because Imp allows me to mill the essential combo pieces. And that was my main motivation behind swapping out Legwork for Imp. So the natural question is, if I end up facing a lot of Astrobiotics, won't my Astrobiotics matchup suffer if I don't find my single copy of Legwork? The answer is simple. If I do find the Imp instead of the second Legwork, the Imp can be used to trash the essential assets, because there's so many important assets that make Astrobiotics so scary. Daily business shows for 4 credits, Sansan City Grid 5 credits, Jackson Howard 3 credits, Pet Campaign 4 credits. All of these are free to trash with Imp. So Imp, essentially with 2 virus counters, becomes like a lucky find, or even better. They changed the opportunity cost of trashing the essential assets. So if I play a normal Prepaid Kate, I might not be motivated to trash their pet campaigns, but with an Imp out, I'll definitely trash their pet campaigns, and that really disrupts the corpse game, and I think that is just as good as a Legwork. Probably not, but I really like the Imp, and it came into play in a lot of my games today. As I said, I played against all of Wayland. There were basically 2 types of Wayland. The Trick of Light Titan Transnational Wayland, which was very easy to counter. I just need to lock that R&D, have an active Imp out, and trash every single Trick of Light I see. There was one matchup where the game dragged out really long, and he managed to Jackson Howard all 3 Trick of Lights back into his deck, even though he only used 1 of them. So while it did not completely lock him out of fast advance, it slowed him down so much because he wasn't able to see Trick of Lights, because I was filtering them out from R&D. So Imp really helped me drag out the game in order for me to get more accesses on R&D to get 7 agenda points to win. The other one it stops is C double Scotch. Obviously, when I see a Scotch for C sauce, that goes away. Again, it slows down the Corpse game. It denies them their alternative win victory condition until they get another Jackson Howard. So I think Imp pulled double duty in the games I played, and it was a good choice. If I were to substitute Legwork and Utopia Shard for Imp, that was probably the best substitute that I could make. Especially considering that Utopia Shard is also good against any form of Wayland, because it can disrupt both combos as well. This is the standard, I will call it from now on, the standard Shaper Breaker suite. There's a lot of programs, but yeah, it's the standard Shaper toolkit that I think is the best Breaker suite in today's meta game. It basically has an answer for every single ice in the game, while ensuring that against the most popular types of ice that are being played today, like Eli's, like Quandaries, and like Grail Ice, for example, there is always a solution. There's always a very efficient solution for those commonly played ice, and yeah. Cyber Cypher and Cerberus are incredibly effective. I don't need to say too much about them. You need 2 copies of each. If you don't believe me, just try playing with 1 copy. You realize very soon that you wish you had your second copy, because you don't want to spend clone chips or scavengers to reposition or refresh them. I mean, especially Cyber Cypher. Cerberus, well, if it's in your hand, you really want to be able to tutor one on the run. Mimic, not very useful today because I faced against lots of Waylands, none of which were running Caduceus. But there was one game, it was up against Nerf Hub, mid-season's Nerf Hub. What happened was, on turn 3, I ran his HQ, face-checking his HQ, and he res an Architect against me. He was probably HQ flooded because he placed his first piece of ice on HQ instead of R&D, and I scored 4 points off R&D on the first turn. So on his third turn, he res the Architect against me, trying to keep me out, and installed 2 cards. I looked in my hand, and I saw these 2 cards. This was what was in my hand on the Architect run. So my click 2 was install Mimic, click 3 was Legwork, and that Legwork won me the game, winning against Nerf Hub in 3 turns. It was very unlucky for my opponent because basically all the pieces fell in the right place. I had the correct breaker and the correct multi-access card to win. It was like a golden ticket, but otherwise, Mimic is very important. That's the moral of the story. Against Architect and against a lot of ice today, especially against Jinteki as well. Sharpshooter, essential against Wayland. Can't say anything more. Archers, Grims, Nebulas, you call it. You name it, this card does all the work it needs to do. I'm not running against Wayland, and if I have programs out, I'm not running against Wayland until I'm sure that I can tute out a Sharpshooter on the run. And usually what happens is that Sharpshooter comes to my hand against Wayland, I'll simply install it for free because I'm Kate, and I say, I dare you to res your Archer. Waste your hostile takeover. I'm just going to break it with my Sharpshooter for nothing. Keep in mind though, I nearly lost a game this way because I thought that Orion was a destroyer since it trashes a program. Orion is not a destroyer. I ran into an Orion thinking that I could break it with Sharpshooter. I couldn't, and I didn't have a Cyber Cypher pointed at that server, so I ate the trash 1 program start routine. That was painful. Deus Ex, not very useful against Wayland unless you really want to avoid those snares. It's more for the Jinteki tech, and I didn't see any Jinteki today. Not much I can say about this. Parasite, essential. Against Blue Sun is useless. I'll just discard it and it can stay there in my heap for the rest of the game. It basically won me my matchup against HP Fast Advance. He was playing Nyx Silvers, Nyx Bronzes, and a Mother Goddess. Every single time he res a Nyx Silver against me, I bounced off. With a clone chip on the table, next turn, I simply tilted the Parasite from my heap, placed it on his Silver, and when I started my turn, the Silver disappeared. Amazing stuff. That really slowed down the HP corp enough for me to win. So again, this is most effective against Jinteki and HB. Didn't see too much of them. So Parasite was so-so. Yeah, it's not that good against Wayland. Although it does help break down ice walls so that my Cerberus is taxless. That somewhat helps as well. Pretty essential still. Finally, Arman. This is the card, the catch-all breaker. It's incredibly expensive to install, usually, for the types of ice that you are worried about, which is to say Susano no Mikoto. That costs 10 to install, -1 with Kate. 9 is still incredibly expensive just to get through a single piece of ice. But, including this in my deck, again, was my golden ticket to victory. Again, I bring you back to the HP Fast Advance game. It got to the point where he actually scored a Chronos project against me, bringing our score to 3-5. 3 points for me, 5 points for him. And because of that Chronos project, he destroyed one of each of my barrier and code gate breakers. He exiled my sharpshooter. He exiled my Parasite. Yes, Parasite was exiled, so I couldn't contest his Snake Size either. I had only a couple of these left in my rig, and I basically lost nearly all my recursion. I only had 1 clone chip and 1 scavenge left, I believe, left in my deck after the Chronos project. That was a huge hit. He was stacking against Max, I suppose, but it did so much work against my Prepaid Kate as well. But thankfully, at that point, I had an Arman 4 out on the table, and that basically sliced through all his ice like Swiss cheese, because his deck wasn't tagged very well for Arman. All he had to stop me were Mother Goddess at strength 4, Sagittarius at strength 4, and his R&D was a triple stack Eli, all at strength 4. So I could actually choose to break Eli with Dog Tokens, I could break it with Arman, slightly more expensive, or I could click through Eli. And at that point, I just needed to get lots of multi-access on R&D. With an R&D interface out, I basically had to run R&D every turn to deny him the 3-2 agendas he needed to fast advance to win the game. And I managed to do that because I was able to iron lock his R&D despite having 3 Eli stacked on it with these 2 very efficient breakers. No other faction, Anarch or Criminal, can say that they can have an easy time dealing with a triple stack Eli on R&D. Shaper slices through it like Swiss cheese, and that was the main reason I emerged victorious. Do not underestimate Arman 4. It works very well with Steam Hack. In fact, that was what I used to pull out the Arman 4. Steam Hack into SMC Arman 4 costs exactly 9 credits. It's perfect. So, that's my Prepaid Kate deck in a nutshell. And of the 8 games I played, I won 6 games. The 2 games I lost, one was against Blue Sun. That Blue Sun deck was a monster. It packed both Punitive Counter-Strike, Sea Scorched, and it was running only 3 pointers and the 6-point government takeover. So what happened was I got a multi-access on R&D. I saw 4 cards. Punitive Counter-Strike was the first card. I had an imp on the board, thankfully, which immediately led me to mill the Punitive Counter-Strike into heat. Second card was a government takeover. I shuddered in fear. If he had another punitive in his hand, he would have won the game. So I scored the government takeover. The third card was a random card, and the fourth card was a punitive Counter-Strike. The second copy of punitive Counter-Strike, I couldn't mill it because I already used my imp on the first one. So I basically sat there, resigned to my fate because I didn't have a plus crit out. I had no plus crit. It was a very early game at that point, and the game was over in an instant when he drew up and found that punitive Counter-Strike to hit me for 6 meat damage. That was very, very painful. And yeah, I will be looking to play that Wayland deck sometime soon. Only 3 and 6 pointers. That is an amazing deck. You have to see it to believe it. I will try that myself. The second deck that I lost against was against a Glacier Blue Sun. It took me a very long time to realize that he wasn't actually running Scorched Earth. I was playing around Scorched Earth and Snares the entire game, so I wasn't getting the accesses I need. So it came down to about our scoreline was 2 for me and 5 for him. His servers were all iced up pretty heavily, and his scoring server had an Ash with lots of space ice, and I couldn't afford to get through it. He plays an Atlas in there. I had to gamble. It wasn't an Atlas. I got some money, and it turned out to be the game-winning Atlas, so I couldn't win. So those were my only 2 games I dropped. The rest of the games were won, most of them in very close fashion, but most of them with very close scorelines, especially the 2 games in the top 8 card. They really could have gone either way. If I got unlucky with my access, I could have dropped out earlier, but for the most part, with corps being stronger than runners in the metagame nowadays, my Kate deck actually held up. It did not drop the game in my last 5 runner games, and that was the main reason I won the tournament. You just need to bring an auto-win corp deck to the tournament and a solid runner deck, and you're good. And that's exactly what I did, and that's how I won this shiny little plug. So, I'll release the report on my corp deck in another video, but for now, thanks for watching, and happy night running. Goodbye.